My mum told me this story from her time at a neuropsychiatric ward while she was still in grad school. Initially, she had to do day shifts only, and she didn't face any problems. But as the time passed, she had to take some night shifts too as a professional measure. One such night, when she was making her routine room check, she heard a loud thud, as if something was banging against the ground. She rushed towards the source of the sound. This was during the night shift, and generally, all the patients' bedrooms' doors should be closed. So my mum turned a corner and noticed an open door. She saw a staff member's legs on the floor, halfway out of the doorway. She was extremely terrified thinking about what might have happened. This notion started building up in her mind that this might be the patient inside who knocked the guy on the floor. Summoning all her courage, my mum peeped inside the room. She saw the patient. There was this woman with a severe postpartum psychiatric disorder who had just gouged both her eyes out with her bare hands. She was sitting cross-legged on the floor, holding her eyes in her hands. The first staff member to witness the scene, who was now lying face down on the floor, had a heart attack when he first witnessed the woman while he was making his rounds. My mum screamed for help and frantically tried to perform CPR on the staff member. All the while, the woman just sat rather calmly, holding her own eyes. "I still get goosebumps, even thinking about that scene," she says. This incident is about a girl I met in a psychiatric hospital in 2015. We will call her Susan. So, Susan's mother admitted her into the hospital. She was quite distressed, claiming Susan had been possessed by a demon. The mother told us that she could no longer handle her daughter. She tried priests, exorcists, holy water, and now the hospital was her last hope. Upon initial observations, Susan seemed to be an ordinary child, not showing any of the symptoms her mother described, but after the final results, we believed she had schizophrenia. She had signs of hallucinations, delusions, and lack of emotion, which included talking to the air beside her, discussing her current situation and how she would have to kill all the doctors to escape. This explained why her mother thought she was possessed. Later, her mother told us that she killed her younger brother and had no remorse. We were told to be extra careful about the girl, and we soon found out why. One day, while she was playing with two other kids named John and Lily in the playroom area, the supervisor left the room for his shift change. As he walks down the hall to the other supervisor, screams were heard. Both supervisors ran into the playroom. There, they found Lily soaked in blood and lying unconscious on the floor. Susan was kicking her ruthlessly. The other child was hiding behind the toy shelf and was shaking with fear. They grabbed Susan instantly, the second supervisor holding Lily's wounds shut. Help was called and the child was sent to hospital. Later, as we consoled John and asked him what had happened, he told us that as soon as the supervisor left the room, Susan stood quickly, grabbed a heavy dollhouse and smashed it into Lily with incredible force. Her face seemed enraged and red. As Lily passed out and bled, Susan started screaming that she needs to kill everyone to escape. She grabbed a piece of broken dollhouse and proceeds to beat and stab Lily. This scared the hell out of us, and we sent her to a high protection area, but it still didn't change what happened. One day, she turned all her lights off and started screaming that the lights went off and she is scared. The guard outside thought of her young age and went to console her, just to find out that she was already preparing for this. She bit the guard on the neck, drawing blood from the wound, and the guard passed out. This was noticed on the security cameras, and the other guards made way to her room, but she escaped through the door that the first guard didn't close. The next day, she was found dead behind the east stairwell. She had slit her wrists vertically and was lying in her own blood. As you may guess, this incident really freaked me out. Schizophrenia didn't seem like the problem with Susan. She was only 12 years old. Considering the stuff her mother said about her, I also think that she was possessed. But I don't know. I don't really believe in that stuff. Still, it feels like something was dangerously wrong with that girl. Nothing can possibly describe the year I worked in psychiatric intensive care. Creepy isn't the word that comes to mind when I think back on it. More heartbreaking and horrifying. But creepiness was a part of it, especially evening and night shifts, naturally. There is always something disturbing about watching someone while they hallucinate. You can tell it is 100% real to them, and something about that makes you believe it, on some level. A lot of stories end with, and of course, I had to look over my shoulder to make sure. You see the emotions it brings out. There was a woman that came in and sat down across the table from me for her test initiations. She had bandages all over her arms and scotch tape over her mouth and ears. She looked very uncomfortable and wouldn't really sit still. When the nurse asked her a question, she would peel the corner of the tape back and answer, and then stick the tape back on really fast. We eventually found out that she saw and felt bugs crawling all over her, and they were trying to get inside her body. The tape was to keep the bugs out. The bandages were because some bugs got in and she had to dig them out. She couldn't sit still because she felt the bugs all over her, even while we sat and talked. The worst part was, she had some idea that it was her mind playing tricks on her. Can you imagine going through your life feeling like someone is continuously dumping buckets of cockroaches on your head, feeling like they're all over you and getting inside of you to the point that you're digging chunks of your own flesh in a panic, all the while knowing intellectually that none of it is real?